Okay, we thank everyone for joining us here this afternoon, joined by Austin Cindric, driver of the number 2 Discount Tire Ford Mustang Dark Horse in the NASCAR Cup Series. Off to Circuit of the Americas this weekend in Austin. 3 years there, 3 top 10 starts, back-to-back top 10 finishes. Obviously, the road course, something you're very comfortable with. Just how do you feel going into this weekend's race at COTA?
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for us to kind of get back on track and hit the reset button. The last couple weeks have been pretty funky with getting knocked out first couple laps at Phoenix, and then obviously last week's craziness and all the tire failures that we experienced. So yeah, kind of excited to just get back going and hopefully a lot of green flag running. And yeah, it's been a place that we've had some good pace. Obviously, got to adapt to the new package, but yeah, excited to go hit the reset button and get after it.
All right, sounds good. We got some questions lined up for you here. Let's kick it off with Rob Tiongson. Rob, why don't you get us going?
Thank you, Dan, and thank you for joining us today, Austin. A couple of questions to kick things off. Now, with the restart zone being pushed back just close to turn 20, how much is that going to impact things going into crazy turn one by Big Red in Coda? And then secondly, given your track record at Coda, walk me through what it takes to be successful at this track.
Yeah, I think the restart zone, I would say initial impressions are that yeah, it should hopefully separate, probably the top 10 of the field from, the back half to where you don't have that immediate stack up where you're trying to fit 40 cars slowing down and have that massive checkup that causes guys to make it 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, however high you can count wide into turn one. Upon reviewing it today, kind of where the restart zone is and how many cars there are, I still think turn one is certainly has a great opportunity to be messy, depending on, how the first couple rows play the start and I think how early the leader goes. So I still think there's plenty of opportunity for chaos there on the restarts, but I think it's a much much higher percent chance of cutting some of that down.
Thanks, Austin. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's move on to Bob. Afternoon, Bob. Go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, Austin. Where you are in points, do you already have to make decisions on whether you get stage points or if you have a good car, kind of race for the win and give up the stage points?
Yeah, I think it all depends on, how competitive you feel like you are, whether if that's, on Saturday or on Sunday, if you feel like you have a chance to win the race or not. I think there's going to be some pretty clear cut guys that are going to flip the stages. We're obviously back to playing that game to where you might even win the race and not have a max points day, but or have a good finish and not have a very good points day. So you certainly have to weigh that out. I think the points are very tight. I mean, I went from, you know, I think I was 11th or 10th in points or third in points that, 2 3 weeks ago. So things happen pretty fast this early in the year. And I'm not necessarily in a points panic, but points are definitely just as important as getting a good finish, if not more.
And I saw you try to kind of wave over to Ricky to talk to him, and he just kind of kept walking after race. I'm curious, I kind of assume your tires just were ice and you couldn't stop once you made that move.
Yeah, I certainly was trying to stay on the lead lap, and tires were old, but I put us in a bad spot. Drove through marbles, put us three wide with the 38, and yeah, just complete responsibility on me for that accident. And I don't know what his race was looking like at that point, but I'm sure it wasn't appreciated, and yeah, he was fairly frustrated after the race, and I think has every right to be. So yeah, kind of just making a bad situation worse on my end. So certainly have to do less of that. So yeah, definitely not fun, and hate to find myself in that situation, and yeah, totally on me.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Bob. Thank you. Let's go to Trey Downey. Hello, Trey.
Hey Dan and hey Austin. Want to look ahead to the next couple of weeks. Next week at Richmond, you had quite a few top fives there, quite a few good runs in the Xfinity series, but Cup's been a little bit of a struggle. Can you pinpoint why Cup's been a struggle and what's the biggest difference at Richmond in the Cup Series versus the Xfinity Series?
Yeah, I'm not sure I've ever started Richmond in the Cup Series inside the top 30, and I can give you a number of reasons of why. And the one time I did, I lost a cylinder about 6 laps into the race. So, um, yeah, it's a very difficult racetrack, a challenging race from a strategy standpoint. Long green flag runs. It's a tough track, but I really do enjoy Richmond. So. I am looking forward to going there. I feel like kind of get our heads wrapped around the short track package a little bit. So certainly not discouraged, but yeah, it's a racetrack where you can't hide if you have a weakness or an issue throughout the race, and it's a racetrack where veterans, really perform well. Not to say that I can't with my experience level, but it is a track that I actually feel somewhat confident about what I need to do with the car and how I need to take care of the race and how the track moves and so on. Just kind of putting it together still is yet to happen at Richmond for me in a Cup car.
And then I'm going to go a little bit left field here. Going into Martinsville, we're doing a feature on hot dogs. So two questions involving hot dogs for you. One, is a hot dog a sandwich? And two, when you go to have a hot dog, what are the go-to toppings for Austin Cindric?
A hot dog is not a sandwich. The hot dog is the actual wiener itself. Like the bun is the vessel that makes it. That's just brings it to. It's not a sandwich. It's like saying a taco is a sandwich. So anyway, not a sandwich. And then as far as what my toppings are on my hot dog, I'm pretty basic. I could maybe put some cheese on it or something like that, but just about it. I just go straight dog.
Thank you.
Would that be a naked dog, right?
I wasn't gonna take it too far, but yeah. There's a lot of avenues I could have taken that down, and I'm gonna refrain.
All right, we've had a couple people join a little late, so if you've got a question for Austin, just raise your hand there, and we'll get to you just as soon as we can. Let's continue on here now with Nathan Solomon. Nathan, go ahead.
Thank you, Austin. Appreciate the time. With the new package, you mentioned Phoenix. Obviously, you weren't able to race much with like the practice session and everything. What did you feel there, and do you expect there to be any sort of similarities coming into this weekend at Coda?
Yeah, I think the similarities are just what our information tells us as far as from you know aerodynamically how is it different. I think you're kind of splitting hairs to really feel like the aero package is going to be a ton different. I look at it more as of a simplification to have a similar product from a car pieces and parts standpoint versus how the car actually drives. That's kind of how I've approached it. I know everyone's hoped to have closer racing and greater fall off and sliding cars more and all that. I don't think this change was big enough to really make me believe that any of that was going to be a whole lot different than what we had last year from my expectations. And as far as how that relates to Coda, I think a lot of the same. I'm not expecting a massive shift from last year this year. I think the things we don't know about, even more straight line braking events, than more it's more lateral, grip limitations at Phoenix. So I think you'll see the car maybe perform in different ways, at that track. So should have a pretty good picture of kind of the total limitations or changes from last year's short track package.
And then this year, with two road courses in the playoffs, and obviously coming in with a new package, is there a little bit more emphasis this weekend to really hit on something, knowing how much of importance the road courses are in the playoffs this year?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's make it to the playoffs and then focus on that. But certainly important now having Watkins, which I would say Watkins is kind of a different ball game compared to more of a traditional road course like Circuit of the Americas or even Sonoma. So some of the relations between all the road courses on the schedule are quite different, I feel like. And this has been a difficult one for us because I feel like we've been okay with our road course package, but Coda has kind of been our outlier. Like that's been one of our best events since we started the Next Gen Car Hour, meaning specifically for me and the two car. So it's kind of hard to convince yourself to do something a ton different, and especially after the last couple of weeks, you almost want to just have a base hit and do something that works. So it should be an interesting weekend for us. Hopefully, we have some repeatability and have the same speed that we've shown the last couple events there.
All right, Nathan, thank you. Let's go to Greg Engel. Hello, Greg.
How can I follow up the hot dog question? I mean, that was the question of the week there, man. Going back to Coda for a second. I mean, this season obviously hasn't been the what you've hoped for so far. I mean, it's early and you got a long time to turn it around. When do you start looking at Coda, knowing that you're always ran strong there, and you just mentioned it with the next gen car? When do you start looking forward to Coda as kind of a relief kind of race, knowing that you're probably going to do pretty well there?
Yeah, it's funny because 2 weeks ago, I would have gotten the same questions from a lot of folks saying, "Oh, how great your start of the season has gone," and now 2 weeks later, it's, "Oh, you're in a rut."
Yeah.
It's so easy to react to that kind of stuff. It's a pretty long game here, so I feel like I have to defend that in a moment that it's a long season. And yeah, the last two
Yes.
weeks have been wildly out of the control of what I feel like our race team's capable of in a few different ways. So, but as far as Coda stacks up for me, yeah, it's uh, no matter how you cut it, it's been a racetrack that I've been able to be competitive at and lead laps every time I've been there in a cup car. So I can't. I personally, it's not necessarily my favorite racetrack to be honest, but it's somewhere that we performed well. I seem to have a package that works well there, and yeah, after the last couple weeks, I'm very hungry to just execute and everyone get to do our jobs. I mean, that comes down to my pit crew as well, and just everybody just kind of getting in a rhythm again because you know we haven't been able to. And as much as we race, it feels awkward to not have anything to really think about from a normal standpoint of like, oh, we maybe need to do this to improve the car or that, not have these massive issues, whether if it's getting wrecked out early or having this tire and track debacle or any of that. Like, let's just reset, and I think it's a great weekend to do it.
And it will be a long season, and you've got a lot of great opportunities ahead. And have fun this weekend. You're my pick. I appreciate it, my friend.
I
Have a great
appreciate
week.
it. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Greg. Let's go to Ashley McCubbin. Hello, Ashley.
Hey, Austin. First of all, thanks for setting this up, everybody. It's great to be able to do this. We've done a restricted plate track, an intermediate, and a short track in the first 5 races this season. How would you rate you and Team Penske thus far into the year, despite maybe this finishes not hitting your expectations?
Yeah, plate events have been really great for us across the board as a team. Daytona and Atlanta, two absolute standout events. I think all three of our cars were probably the best in the field, class of the field, and obviously frustrating not to have any of us win those races, but A plus I think for those events. And I think the last 2 weeks or last 3 weeks have kind of just been learning, whether if that's offset with the Dark Horse Ford Mustang to figure out, okay, where have we made gains, where are we different, and as well as kind of just getting started off into the season. So yeah, obviously, like I've said before in here, the last 2 weeks have been just kind of a mess, regardless of anything that we've really done outside of our preparation. So bit difficult to get a read, but certainly been interesting. Obviously the Toyotas and specifically the Gibbs cars have been pretty strong on the short track so far this year. So I think that's a pretty easy standout to make. But otherwise, yeah, early days.
What stands out about Coda compared to other road course tracks that we run?
Yeah, I think it has everything, every type of corner imaginable, high speed, low speed, lefts and rights, braking zones, medium speed corners. You go through the whole gearbox. Um, there is some tire wear. We've got some patches in some places, but if anything, that'll make the tire wear maybe a little bit less. And I also don't feel like this tire necessarily wears any more than any of the rest. But it's somewhat of an abrasive racetrack. So past that, it's just got everything in it. And you kind of just have to have the complete picture to be competitive there.
All right, thanks for your time. Best luck this weekend.
Thank you.
All right, Rob, you have a follow-up? Rob, do you have
Yes,
anything?
I do. For sure. Thank you, Dan. A couple of questions. I wanted to ask Roy's question because I know he's having some audio issues. So he wanted to know if your team's been consulting with RFK Racing to improve upon Ford's performances this season. And for my question, I wanted to know how the dynamic is going for you with crew chief Brian Wilson this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot of collaboration between the four teams as far as some information shared on race weekends, and then obviously the work that all the teams did as well as for performance to kind of get aerodynamically get ready for the season and make the improvements that we know we've made with the Dark Horse Ford Mustang. But past that, obviously we're still competitors. And then what was your question again? Sorry.
Oh, how's things been going with you and Brian Wilson?
Oh yeah, Brian and I mean, we obviously got the last, 10 races of the year to kind of get the wheels back on the bike. We know each other extremely well. Obviously, been in the same building, since the start of both of our Cup careers. But no, it's been great, and I think we're just trying to find our footing right now as far as things that are important to us, car setup wise, and communication throughout the race weekends. Put in some different situations than what we might have been in the Xfinity series as far as practicing qualifying and just kind of playing a little bit of catch up, in comparison to like, Ryan and Joey, who've kind of had their same groups for the last couple of years. So I think things are going well, progressing well. I think the mentality is all in the right way. So Brian and I are a good fit because I think we think a lot alike. And I think we process information the same way, and I think we also put in a very similar level of effort, and that's about all you can ask for. I think in that pairing.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, Austin. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Thank you, Rob. I think we hit everybody. Just about everybody asked the question here. I'll see if anybody's got one final follow-up. Otherwise, we'll let Austin go. All right, Austin, appreciate the time very much. Hope that luck turns around a little bit for you here this weekend at COTA. All right.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Austin.